Welcome, grade 4s, to WorksheetCloud.com's online lessons. It's me, Miss Nicole Frank, again, and we're going to be learning some reading comprehension skills in this lesson. So, before we get started, let's get up, grade 4s, get up, stretch out, take a walk around the room or the kitchen or wherever you are so that you can get awake for this lesson, okay? You're going to need a pencil or a pen and a page for this lesson because, like I said previously, we're going to be a bit more practical in these lessons from now onwards, just so that we can get into practice, okay? The different skills that I would like you to learn. So, without wasting any more of your time, we're going to get into it, okay? So if you have any questions regarding this lesson or any of my previous lessons, please send the email to grade4@worksheetcloud.com and we will get back to you as soon as we can after this lesson. Remember, grade 4s and parents of grade 4s, if you as a parent have any queries about lessons or anything to do with schedules, things like that, please look at the FAQs in this website. So today we are going to be focusing on comprehension skills for grade 4. I'm going to be trying to teach you some strategies on how to answer comprehension and actually what to do before we start reading a comprehension. So the objectives or the lesson overview for this lesson is we're going to firstly do a sentence a day. So what we've done previously is when we broke up the sentences into its parts of speech, we're going to do that first. And then we're going to predict a text looking at the title only. So we're going to try and guess what we think a story could be about just looking at the title. We're going to predict a text looking at the pictures. So after I give you the title, I'm going to put some pictures up on the screen and we're going to try and predict the story looking just at the pictures. And then I'm also going to want us to identify some paragraphs and so that we can see how we can tell the difference between the different paragraphs, okay? And then we're going to do some reading aloud, okay? So I'll be reading and you're going to be following on the screen, but please go and read it again after the lesson is done. So that's our lesson overview for today. Okay, so sentence a day. So why am I calling it a sentence a day? Is because it's basically something that I would like you to do on a daily, every single day, okay? Because it's something to help us refresh our memories, refresh our minds, and it keeps us to remember what the different parts of speech are. But we won't always focus on parts of speech in sentence a day. We'll also focus on different types of language sections like tenses or subject and predicate. And we're going to be trying to do that as often as we can in the lessons that are going to come up. Okay. So let's look at the sentence. The strong boy picked up a huge rock. Okay, so that is our sentence for today. I'm going to leave it on for a few seconds, grade 4s, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to break up it into its parts of speech. For the purposes of fun, the strong boy picked up a huge rock. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 words. So I'm going to give you a mark out of 8, or you give yourself a mark out of 8 when you get the answers right. Okay, so starting now, write down the sentence, break it up into its parts of speech, and see how many out of 8 you get. So, okay, let's see. There's an article, an adjective, a common noun, a verb, preposition, article again, adjective, and a common noun. Okay, they are in order as they appear now. Okay, but I purposefully did not create the arrows because I wanted us to do that together. So let me get my pen out and you can get your pen out also, and we can now work out the different parts of speech and break the sentence up. So there is a definite article, okay? And over there I put an article and I'm going to draw an arrow to it. So it's an article. For the purposes of the sentences now, we are going to look purely at it being an article instead of saying it's a definite article. Okay? The strong boy. So strong is describing the boy and therefore it is an adjective. Very good, grade 4s. Then boy is the noun in the sentence, okay? And therefore it is a common noun. We have covered nouns in our previous lesson. So for now, you have to actually tell me what kind of noun it is. And it is a common noun. Picked. Picked describes an action, or it tells us what the action of the sentence is, and therefore it is a verb. Okay? Up, it's telling me how the person was picked, or picked, how the object was picked up. It's also telling me the relation between the boy and the rock, which is the object. So it's a preposition. But be careful here, because this could also be an adverb, because it's telling me more about the word picked. Okay? And then a is an indefinite article, but like I said, we'll get more into that in a different lesson. For now, we are just going to call it an article. And then huge is describing the noun rock, and therefore it is an adjective, a describing word. And the last one is a common noun, because it is a naming word. It's naming the rock. Okay, so that is how we're going to start our lessons, grade 4s, breaking up sentences, using one sentence to kind of get all the language aspects we possibly can get. Since I'm on that topic, let's just take a look quickly, and I'm going to change the color of my pen. That the sentence starts with a capital letter and the sentence ends with a full stop. So therefore, it's also known as a statement. Okay, so as you can see, I'm trying to recap on the work that we've already covered. I hope you're all with me, grade 4s. We are moving on. So, Slim and the Dinosaur. That is the name of the story we are going to read. As grade 4s, I want you to sit there wherever you are and try to think, what could the story be about? Okay? And then I want you to start with, I think the story is about. So on your page, I want you to write down, I think the story is about, and finish that sentence for me, please, grade 4s. By doing this, I'm giving you a sentence start of how we can possibly predict a story. Now, what does the word prediction mean? And I think a lot of the time we get confused with words, okay? So to predict is to guess, okay? And it has to be a logical guess. I obviously know that there's something to do with the dinosaur. I can see it in the text over here, okay? I can see that Slim is someone or something, or an object, a person or an animal, and there's going to be a dinosaur in the story. So my prediction kind of has to have something to do with a dinosaur. Okay, so that's just my clue. So please start with, I think the story is about, grade 4s, and I'm going to give you a few seconds to try it out. Right. I've included a speech bubble because it's something to do with thinking, okay? Or a thinking bubble, okay? So, now that you've gotten your first prediction, which is, I think the story is about, based on the title, I'm now going to place 3 pictures onto your screens now, so that it gives you a better idea of what the prediction could possibly be about, okay? So normally when you see a story, most of the time, you have a title and you have a few pictures. And before you even get to read the story, you normally look at those pictures, or you look at the title. Now you probably are trying to think, why would I go through this trouble and just not read the story? Well, remember, this isn't just about reading skills, grade 4s. It is about comprehension skills. And a lot of the time, we can read the story, but we don't understand what the story is about. So me showing you these steps, it's helping you to understand how you can comprehend the story. Okay, and sometimes we can do that before we even read the story. We already now have an idea of what the story possibly could be about. So here are the three pictures, okay? Over here, it looks like a little boy and his mom, okay? And there's a dinosaur, and this looks like an egg. So I'm just going to leave it there, and I'm going to hope that you're going to now write the sentence again. I think the story is about. This time, you're going to include the pictures that you see in front of you. I know some of you are probably sitting there thinking of Jurassic Park right now, but it's nothing like Jurassic Park. That's my clue, okay? Okay, so while you're looking at those pictures, let's ask ourselves, who do you think are in the pictures? So you're looking at each of them and you're asking yourself, who do I see in the pictures? I know I see a boy. Could this possibly be his mom? Okay, and then what does a dinosaur have to do with anything? And then there's a dinosaur egg. So now we can see that there's something going to happen with the dinosaur and the dinosaur's egg. Okay, what is happening in the pictures? So the mom looks like she's telling the boy something, okay? And the dinosaur looks quite angry. And again, we have the egg. So before we are going to read the story, grade 4s, we are really going to analyze these pictures. What is it telling us about the story before we read the story? And what do you think the pictures represent? Now, I'm not just putting any pictures on the screen and then trying to have you guess around what you think the story could be about. There is a reason I'm putting those pictures on the screen right now. Those pictures are going to tell us something about our story. Okay, so that's what you need to keep in mind. So in whatever you are writing, if you got a brainstorming on your page and a mind map and you're trying to figure it out, these pictures are going to help you do that. So let's try to predict again with what we know so far. So we know the title, Slim and the Dinosaur. We also know that there were three pictures before. One of a mother and a child, one of a dinosaur, and one of an egg. Okay, so that's what we have seen so far. Now we're going to use that information to make our guess. What do we think the story is going to be about? I think the story is about. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put up what you could possibly have on your page right now. Some of you might have something completely different. Some of you might even have exactly what the answer is, okay? But for the purposes of everybody else, I'm going to show you what I thought I would have done before I read the story and what I would have thought the story was about, okay? So I think the story is about a boy and a dinosaur. Now, a lot of you would have had that answer. And grade 4s, that is typically what I would have expected from my own class. The story is about the boy and a dinosaur. Straightforward, obvious, okay, right? I think the story is about a boy whose mom told him about a dinosaur. Okay, so now I'm going a bit further. I think the story could be about the boy whose mommy was talking to him about a dinosaur. It could be possible. In the other picture, looks like the mommy is telling him something. And then there's a dinosaur and there's an egg. So it could possibly be that. Okay. I think the story is about a boy and his mom who came into contact with a dinosaur and his egg. So now I'm taking it a step further. So now I'm thinking it could be about a boy and his mom who came into contact with a dinosaur and his egg. That's very possible. Maybe the story is about a boy and his mom and how they came into contact with the dinosaur and the dinosaur's egg. Okay, that is a good prediction, but we still don't know what the story is about, grade 4s. I think the story is about a boy who stole a dinosaur egg. Okay, so now I'm not saying that this is everything that I think, because I obviously know the answer. But what I'm trying to get you to see is you should have something to this effect in front of you right now. Something that's telling me what you could possibly have thought the story was about before reading the story. Again, it's not reading skills, grade 4, it's comprehension skills. We're trying to find out how we can understand the story, okay? So, what is this story about? And we are going to get into it now. And we're going to do that to check, to see if any of our predictions were right. Slim and the dinosaur. I am going to get out of your way over here, grade 4s, because I just might be in your way. Okay, let's look at this. So, putting my story up, okay? And the first thing I want us to look at before I'm going to read the story, I want us to recognize the paragraphs, okay? So there I have one, and there I have the second one, and I've highlighted them so that you can see as well. So we're going to look at our paragraphs, and there's one over there, and there's a second one over there. And paragraphs, they tell us that there's a different idea or an idea changed in the story, okay? So that is why I would change my paragraphs. And I'm showing you that so that you can also identify paragraphs when you are reading stories or text on your own. I've attached this story to where your activities usually are in this website or on this website. And I want you to go, and when you do, if you print it out or you're just going to use it on the computer, highlight your paragraph so that you can see how it changes when the idea changes. Okay, so now we're going to read aloud together. You can read with me, or you can wait and watch me and just follow as I read. Once upon a time, there was a boy who was just far too naughty. His name was Slim. His parents always told him not to go over to Dinosaur's house because they liked their privacy. This did not stop him from sneaking out every day to see what the dinosaurs were up to. To his amazement, he saw that dinosaurs had an egg. This made Slim very excited because he always wanted to touch a real dinosaur egg. One day, he snuck into the dinosaur's cave and went to touch the egg. As he was about to touch it, he heard a voice saying, "Who are you and what are you doing in my cave?" Slim was shocked. He turned around to see Mr. Dinosaur standing in the room with him, with his hands on his hips. "I'm waiting, young man." Slim was astonished. The dinosaur spoke just like he did. I'm Slim," he stuttered in fear. "I just wanted to touch this beautiful egg. Please don't hurt me." "And why would I hurt you?" the dinosaur asked. "My mommy said I shouldn't come over here." "Why didn't you listen to your mommy?" the dinosaur asked Slim softly. "She's always telling me to do stuff. Sometimes I just want to do my own thing." "That isn't a good idea, because now you have upset me, and I don't like to be disturbed." "Can I please go home now?" Slim asked quietly. "Go home, little boy, but don't come back. Listen to your mommy." The story continues. Dinosaur knew that Slim would be back. He knew because Slim was a curious boy. He wanted to teach Slim a lesson about not listening to his parents. Each day, Dinosaur watched Slim sneak out of his own house and come over to Dinosaur's house to play with the egg. One day, Dinosaur replaced the egg with a flimsy cracked egg. This egg could break at any moment. When Slim snuck in to play with the egg suddenly broke. All the color left Slim's face. Oh no! What could he do? Just as he was about to run away, Dinosaur came in. "What is going on here?" Dinosaur asked. "Did you break my egg? Kill my child? Did I not tell you not to come here?" Dinosaur was talking very loudly. Slim remained quiet. He wanted to run and call his mother. "You did tell me, but—" Slim began. "Oh, no!" Dinosaur shouted. "You did not listen. Now you will have to learn. You cannot go home, ever. You wanted to keep coming over here and playing in my house. Since I no longer have a child, you can be my child. Go home and pack your things and go and say bye to your mother." Slim was so sad. He cried all the way home. He did not want to leave his mommy. He was going to miss them so much. When he got home, his mom was already waiting for him by the door with his bag in her hands. "Dinosaur told me what happened. Here is your bag, Slim." Slim started crying loudly. "Please, Mommy, don't let me go there. Please, Mommy." "But Slim," she said, "I did tell you not to go there, but you didn't listen." "I promise I will listen from now onwards. I promise. Just don't let me go." Slim's mom started smiling. "Dinosaur called me and told me what he did. You did not kill his child. But we needed to show you that if you don't listen, bad things could happen. I hope you learned your lesson now, Slim." "Yes, I did," Slim said. Slim never went to disturb the dinosaurs again, and he always listened to his mommy. The end. I hope you enjoyed that story, grade 4. Please read it again if you would like to, just to get an idea of what the story is about. So now we're going to move on. We've read the story together, and now we're going to see our prediction. So let's go back. Was your prediction correct? Now, if you noticed, I actually had very different predictions than the answers of the story. And I did that purposely because when we realize that our prediction was wrong, we always have to go back and correct it. Okay, so it wasn't about that. So now that we know, we change what we thought the story was about. So was your prediction correct? Is what my question is. If it was right, great. If it wasn't, that's okay, because practice makes perfect. We're always going to make mistakes. And when we learn from our mistakes, and that's how we do better grade 4s. So both would have been great. If you got the answer right, well done to you. But if not, you got it slightly right, or you didn't get it right at all, that's okay too, because you will practice and practice, and surely you will get the answer right one day. So this story was about a boy who did not listen to his mom and went to play at the dinosaur's house. And the egg gave the idea that he was playing with a dinosaur egg, okay? So that was what the story was actually about. And notice I only wrote one sentence, but I could possibly write a few. And that's what we would call a summary, okay? When we retell a story, and we're not going to use the exact words, we are basically going to summarize what the story is about. But we're going to get there in another lesson, grade 4. Okay, so let's move on. So in the next lesson, we will learn how to summarize a text. So we're going to go back to Slim and the Dinosaur, and we're going to find a way to summarize it. So remember I said we are using one sentence for our prediction, but when we summarize, we're going to use the whole text, and we're going to find a way to kind of condense it and only take out the important parts that tells us exactly what happened in the story. We're going to answer questions based on the text. So I'm going to give you some questions about the story, and we're going to learn on how to answer those questions. Because sometimes it isn't that we don't know the answer, but we don't know how to do it. So we're going to focus on that in our next lesson. And there at the bottom I included the eggs. So those are the two things we're going to focus on in the next lesson based on this story. So in the next lesson we have covered. So if you have any questions about this lesson, please send it to grade4@worksheetcloud.com, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can after this lesson. Grade 4's no activity will be provided for you after this particular lesson. Remember, I normally add an activity for all the other lessons, but no activity will be provided for after this lesson because I have attached the story of Slim and the dinosaur for you, and I would like you to read it again before tomorrow's lesson because tomorrow's lesson is going to be based on that story. So it would be good if you go over and read it. If you'd like to try and summarize on your own before the time, great, and we can maybe just go through the steps of summarizing together. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed this lesson, grade 4, and I hope that you've learned something, and especially about comprehension skills. Remember, reading is not the problem sometimes, it's actually understanding the story, because when we ask you comprehension questions, we want to see if you understand the story. And it's not about the reading, because you can read perfectly well, but if I ask you questions, you aren't able to answer them. That's because you're not quite understanding the content of the text. So that's basically the skills that I'm trying to impart on you right now. So again, I hope you enjoyed this. And from me, Miss Nicole Tank, have a wonderful day further and enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.